big boys make some noise and just slam. Do, 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 do. Hello everybody, welcome to the review of the Pivot Shuttle SL AM, a bike that we've officially been calling the Slam. So big boys, let's make some noise. Today we're going to gloss over some of the details and features of the bike and get right into the ride impressions as quickly as possible. So, high-level details. Bosch Performance Line SX drive unit, 400 watt-hour internal battery with the option to run a 250 watt-hour PowerMore range extender. It is compatible with the new Bosch screen if you choose to do that update. Our test bike was shipped out before those were available, so we've got the old LED light-up top tube display. Moving into the rest of the bikes, the 150 millimeters of rear wheel travel, 160 mil of travel up front. You've got a high-low geometry flip chip adjustability and a number of different models and price points available. Now on the higher end models, the bike is actually spec'd with a SRAM Motive brake, whereas the lower spec models have the SRAM DB8. The Motive brake, I believe, was not a great call for more aggressive, downhill focused riders, and neither was the EXO Plus tire casing selection. Again, that's my opinion as a more gravity focused rider, but I think when you've got such a capable and aggressive eMTB, it sort of gets handcuffed and limited a little bit by a thin or flimsy tire spec and a brake that just isn't quite powerful enough for what this bike is ready for. I'm 5'11". Most of the test crew sits in that 5'11" to 6'2" range. We've passed this around to a few guys. We opted for the size large. So here's a quick look at the geo chart. Again, if you want to read those numbers in more detail, check out Pivot Cycles or head to theloamwolf.com and check out our written review, which will have that graph there. So let's hit the trail and see how this thing performs. So just like the trail, let's get the unfun stuff out of the way. That's the uphill. And you know what? I can't really even say that climbing isn't all that fun, especially when you got a drive unit. I personally like technical climbing and getting up to the top of the hill, and e-bikes do just make it even more enjoyable. Although the pain cave and type 2 fun is certainly high on the list, hours are short these days, so getting up faster means more laps, and I do like going downhill more than I like going uphill. So speaking of power, the Performance SX drive unit, we've done the update, and the extra little bit of power is pretty awesome in the SL category. I've got mixed feelings about the power update in the full power CX drive unit, but here I think it's a great spot to be for the SL, mid-power, whatever you want to call this category. We like to say e-bike light. But yeah, 400 watt hours with the internal battery, we felt that was a pretty reasonable range for most of our rides. If you're, eking out a pretty solid ride in the eco mode, or you're just banging out some after work hot laps or a little, lunch ride and boost, you can still get some pretty good rides in for sure. We don't have the PowerMore range extender, but getting that extra 250 on there certainly would extend some range by a bit. Geometry, for me, again, 5'11", size large. I thought the bike climbed rather nicely. It offered a pretty comfortable seated position, both in terms of reach and suspension compliance. This particular model we have right now has the live valve update. We have played around, but we typically like our live valve set more towards the open, or I guess minimally effective range, just so that we have more sensitivity, a little bit more plush and sensitive of a live valve platform. I like the bike. It climbs well. I know. How an e-bike that climbs well, big surprise, it has a motor. The suspension climbs well, it offers good traction, it's a balanced feel on the bike, right? These are the things I'm talking about. I think that it gives a pretty good spot for me aboard the bike. Anytime something gets steep, I like to drop my seat post a little bit, slide forward, or I get a little more engaged and active, maybe kind of hovering or sliding forward. So, everyone has a little different preference. Cole got really long legs. I think he's 6'1" or 6'2". he can be a little bit critical sometimes of seat tube angles, but even he was quite happy with this bike, as was Robert with their bit of time riding it. Robert is also 6'2" and has very long legs but a short torso, and he really thought that this was a pretty comfortable and solid bike all around. So enough with the climbing out of the way, let's drop in, talk about how this thing descends, corners, and plays on the trail. Descending, play, general ride characteristics of the bike when gravity's at your side. The Slam has been a very fun bike overall. So first off, I guess my personal preference, I like a little bit more of a supple, soft, sensitive bike. This bike here has the live valve Neo on it, which, you know, obviously we talked about already. I would love to try this bike with a coil shock, maybe even a live valve Neo coil. But I would like to see if that would just kind of smooth out some of the roughness and real harsh chatter that I like to frequent, you know, the high frequency braking bumps and bomb holes. You know, I think that's kind of one area that I struggled sometimes to find the right balance in the suspension tune, even with that live valve fully open. That said, you know, those sections of trail or those trails aren't all that I ride. And so when I got onto any other bits of trail, you know, sections that were a little smoother, anything that had berms or jumps or areas where I could pump the bike, I really, really got along with it well. That was an area that I think the bike excelled. It rode pretty darn light. It was very fun, nimble, and active. You know, by far, one of the biggest standouts for me of this bike was how it cornered and the way that it inspired confidence and fun and just like a committed riding feel or attitude. So like when I was on this bike and I saw a sharp turn, you know, I just felt like I could just dip the bars over, turn my hips and just push my feet into that back end and just get that bike where I wanted it to be. And that was like for sure one of the highlights and my favorite part about this bike. It just, you know, like it's something that we talk about a lot when we review Santa Cruz bikes, that they've kind of got like this like magical cornering, you know, mysticism built into their frames. This bike, I would say, is on par with that when it comes to the handling, the cornering, and just the strong, solid, balanced feel that I get aboard the bike. I think both Cole and Robert agreed with those sentiments and thought that it really shone in those scenarios. Again, playfulness, liveliness, it's a very fun bike, you know, and I think in this kind of like e-bike light category, it certainly is a bike that stands out as something that we really like and would love to like keep kind of in our personal quiver of bikes to pick out of the tool shed, so to speak, depending on the ride and where we're going. Speaking of picking bikes, we will be keeping this bike. We're going to swap out the suspension to drop the price point down a little bit, as we have a $10,000 max cap on our upcoming SL e-bike shootout, mid-power e-bike light, whatever you want to call it, shootout. But we're going to be putting a whole bunch of bikes to the test, so stay tuned for that. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on that. If there's anything we missed on the Shuttle SL AM, please let us know. We'd be happy to answer those questions down below in the comments. And if we don't have any answers, we'll reach out to the folks at Pivot and try to help you guys out. Thanks very much for watching, and we hope to see you out on the trails.